Welcome to the fifth and final episode of the Prince of a Nation series of In the Middle, hosted by Roy and Cedric. In this episode, they talk about what it means to be a light in the dark. If you'd like to read along, reference passages are in the show notes, and we hope you enjoy this episode of In the Middle.
There's a rabbinic law. As I know also, we talked about there is scripture in the Brit Hadashah of how you deal with certain things. And probably, if I were to guess, most churches don't have that kind of structure, even though I wish they did. But there's a rabbinic law that concerning that type of criticism, you have to make it short, you basically have to be the same rank. Meaning, if there's a guy who's a CEO of a company and he's a millionaire and I want to rip him up, I have to be a CEO of a company and a millionaire.
Right.
I have to be on equal footing with the person that I'm against on this. It's not permitted if you're the janitor and you're ripping up all these, Steve Jobs he's passed away, but all these CEO billionaires. That's not our place in life. And it's a source of entertainment, I think, to critique the things we see and hear on TV, but it is something that you really have to be careful about because, again, that goes to how are you upholding your station of the place where God put you.
Right. And, it's funny because all of us understand empirically, when we do whatever it is that we do at our station, at our level, like we get up and we go in and we apply the skills and the knowledge and the experience that we have accrued over the time that we've been living and working and endeavoring in whatever area, that we have an insight because we've been doing it, right?
Yeah.
So to assume
that's the balance of what I just said on that rabbinic law. If you're doing it, you have insight that you couldn't possibly have,
if you're not doing it. So
right.
Criticizing it without understanding, which is what you would have to be doing if you're not in that position or have not held that responsibility, haven't had to, haven't had to walk in the shoes, haven't had to hold Occam's razor and make a decision that was going to impact whatever it was going to impact, and the chips fall where they and deal with and carry the weight of that. If you haven't had to do that, it is not reasonable to judge or criticize. Yeah. Sure, they may make decisions that may impact things that you care about and people that you care about, but don't forget that they're human beings walking in what they know.
And that goes it goes the same way, the opposite direction. And I don't know how many times I've heard in ministerial circles about a homeless person. Well, they're homeless because they're on drugs. They're homeless because they're alcoholics. That you're doing the same thing in that case. And I was trying to remember the scripture, and I've recited it all the time, but for some reason, when there's a microphone in front of me, I can't recite it. Right. But it's basically rebuking the person who does not consider the afflictions of the poor.
Right.
And whereas I put the afflictions of the afflicted, because that's what it means, poor in spirit, poor in soul. And so when you're attacking people, and I think sometimes people do that to kind of protect their hearts in a way, because you can only handle so much grief. And if you're really considering the afflictions of the afflicted, some of that kind of can get on you. You don't feel so good anymore. But we're supposed to at least have the ability to consider and understand, or at least consider their afflictions, and kind of be able to be a little empathetic towards that. So that the same person who's ripping up the person in the high place and you're ripping up the person in the low place, I've learned everything I need to about you. Right. I know what manner of a person you are,
Right. And the lack of compassion, empathy, all of the things.
Yeah.
We have to figure out how to navigate life together and appreciate one another in a more authentic way. And I think, again, it's where the world is right now.
Yeah.
Of course, because the world is there, those of us who carry this thing authentically, who really do care about what God cares about, and are trying our best to live it, we stand out. You cannot do this the way he said do it right now in this season and not be obvious.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah,
you are very
you're
conspicuous.
Very obvious. Yeah, very much so.
So it is. It really does take a commitment.
Yeah.
To live this life with intent.
I really enjoyed the part about the Levites on that. When I was first reading, like I said, I really was struggling with the caste systems and the layers to society. But then when you tie it all back, it ties back to two events, always two events, the golden calf and the Exodus.
Right.
When you tie it back to what was said, that where the Lord sanctified them, when basically he redeemed them in Egypt, what he's saying is you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
And you would really be dead, literally, but I'm going to put the Levites in their charge, and they're dead. Because that's what redemption, your life is not your own. If I wouldn't have intervened, you're dead. I would have killed you with everyone else. So when you look at it, you can look at it a little harsh, like, man, the Levites don't get anything. They're dead men walking.
Right.
They know. Of all people, they understand that. So if your life is done, all you have left is the service to the Lord. And if you look at ministries, whether rabbinic ministries or pastoral ministries, you're standing in the role of a Levite at the least, in that kind of structure. I'm not saying you're literally a Levite, but that's the structure that you're picking up, and you have to be dead to the world. That's the process.
And Paul said it like this in Romans 12:1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service.
Okay, now find the one about the sons of God, because the thing is, if you're using the sacrifice as the example, if we used it literally from Torah, I mean, and I do, then that animal ceased to exist. Like I said, it literally died, but that's not the symbolism there. The symbolism we have of the ascension offering or the burnt offering is that is transformed to vapor, to smoke, or said another way, to spirit, that you're now a spiritual being. You have crucified, is how you would say it. You have put yourself on the altar, that the flesh of who you were is now destroyed, and what gets up off the altar. And the reason why I said the sons of God, to them he gave the power, I believe it says, to become sons of God. Some scriptures say it a different way. That's who gets up off the altar. Now, we know the Lord's made the ultimate sacrifice, but I assure you he sacrificed himself long before that day. On that day, he was the sacrifice for everyone else. But long before that, he gave up any ambition or any idea of what kind of man, fleshly man, that he would be to be a spiritual son of God, a spiritual man.
Mm. Yeah, because, of course, we have the text where he's, it's written, and the whole earth is waiting, is groaning in anticipation and waiting for us to stand as the sons of God.
Yeah.
And, that is never more apparent than when the darkness abounds.
Yeah.
I remember recently, I think it was just a few months ago, there was a church service and Bishop was saying, and, he was reminding us of the scripture where in sin, where sin did abound, grace did much more abound.
Yeah.
And those who attempt to live their faith with intent are never more apparent than when it is dark.
Yeah.
When there is such despair in the earth.
Yeah.
You can't carry hope for as a lifestyle and not stand out when there's so much despair, so much fear, so much insecurity, so much baseless hatred, so much anger and resentment and frustration, and that seems to be
on the lower end of the pole, indifference.
Right, where people just get they're just totally,
they don't care.
They be getting numb because it's such an inundation that they just they feel like they can't drum up the energy to carry anymore. Let me just make it through the day. Let me just survive this moment, and they get to indifference. When all of that seems to be the currency of the culture and the environment and the society that we're living in, you walking through with your hope-filled, faith-filled self. We almost look crazy to the world.
You know, stick out like a sore thumb. Right. But one thing I'm reminded of, and it's where my hope lies. I mean, yes, my hope is in Mashiach. My hope is in the Father. But I have this other hope. as much darkness as begins to feel, when everyone's talking about, oh, it's getting dark out there, it's getting dark out, things are going bad, I'm always reminded of the increase of stored potential at the same time. The darker it gets, the more potential there is for the light. And I really do believe a way that if you're not getting your light, I'll get my light and yours. I'll get both. If you're not fulfilling that because you're caught up in the darkness, it's going to go somewhere. It's not a, well, I've told you this before, from our readings, it's a numbered account. There's so much light and there's so much darkness. So if there's 10 units of light, 10 units of darkness, 5 was to go to me of light, 5 to you, but you took the 10 units of darkness, then I'll take the whole 10, you know. In our mindset, it transfers that way. It's available to be had, to be beholden, I guess.
Yeah, that I was sharing with someone the principle that you had expressed to me of converting darkness to light. You know, and how, what a tremendous opportunity it is to be able to navigate existence with God in such a way that as you travel through on your sojourn through this dimension of life, you get the opportunity to handle the stuff of creation in a way that converts darkness into light. And transforms dark circumstances and hopeless situations into something that inspires and uplifts all those who behold it. You can become that light that Jesus said that we are to be, you know, that you know, he said, you know, that if no man starts a lamp and puts it under a bushel, but instead he puts it in the middle of the room so that it may spread and shed light for everyone. That we can be that light that God has placed in whatever space of the world that he has placed us in, to shed light to everyone. We get the privilege of doing that. And that is, you know, from my perspective, when I look at, you know, my community right now in America, or my neighborhood, and in my neighborhood, it's actually a fairly diverse neighborhood. There are people of African American and Latin and white and Asian descent, all living in this, you know, suburban residential area, you know, homes and you know, all this, and a couple of apartment complexes down the road, and we see all the kids out there doing their things at the park, you know, a couple of blocks away, and when I look at that space and think I have the opportunity to bring light into it, and make it a little bit better for the people around me, something about the way that my family lives and moves and operates, and the way we speak to people and smile and encourage and uplift others can make it better. And I think also that goes with that is also the understanding that darkness can, and if given the opportunity, will overtake you. So when you're responding to these moments of darkness, or units of darkness as I call it, and you respond back with darkness, the person that cuts you off in traffic, he flips you off, you flip him off. These things will overtake you, and it becomes who you are. But then the other side of that is, but if you understand within every unit of darkness is a unit of light, then we don't respond in kind. And that's tangible. I mean, you can feel that. It doesn't take very long at all. Matter of fact, if I put a time on it, I'd say after 3 days, you can start feeling it, and things are starting to shift and change in your own mind, in your own consciousness, in your own reality, because every time the darkness shows itself, it's an opportunity. And you know that there's something valuable. It's the pearl in the oyster. From the outside, it's a nasty oyster. Those things got like moss growing on them. Like they look like rocks almost. They're just nasty looking. Nobody would look at an oyster and say, well, I mean, some people eat it. But no one would look at an oyster saying, wow, what a valuable organism that is. But what's hidden inside of it is quite valuable. But you have to pull it out. Light is more times than not hidden in the darkness. I understand going to a worship service, you're in the light, you can feel that, you can feel the peace of the Lord settle on a synagogue. I've felt it many times. You can feel it in the church when you're worshiping. The problem with that is, more times than not, when you leave the building, that's where you left the light at. You know, you left the light on. It's there. But out in the world, when darkness is presenting itself, inside of that darkness is your provision of light
to add to yourself. And then that strengthens you for the next moment, which strengthens you for the next moment. I mean, it is something, like I said, it's tangible, it can be felt, and it's something that you can operate in, but you have to see the value of the bad things. And the bad things, the opposite things are the most valuable. What is the most valuable thing in Judaism? A question. It's not what someone tells you about Torah, it's what you ask the rabbi about. What question did you bring to him? That's the most valuable thing. What is the most valuable thing in this world? I'm sorry to say it, but it's light, or it's darkness. Because in that darkness is your light, once you handle it the way you're supposed to handle it. And that's why in the Brit Hadashah, someone slapped you, give them the other cheek. Someone asked for a shirt, give them your jacket. That's the element. For whatever reason, Scripture doesn't specifically say the kind of the point of those things. It's listed as a conduct, and we have that in Torah. And that's why we stop down and we look at Torah this way, because it's what is in the negative space of Torah, or Scripture, is what we're supposed to figure out by living it. By doing it, we would realize these things, and then we would know them to be so. When you're encountering issues with a person or with a situation that you can say, man, this is darkness, if you know the light is in there, when you respond according to what Scripture tells you, you feel that and you come away with that awareness. It's the experiential part of walking out the Word that reveals some of the biggest, greatest mysteries of Torah.
That should be a book.
Well, today it's a podcast. Right. Maybe one day it'll be a book.
Right.
Because it's a hard thing to articulate those things, intellectually speaking, or intelligently speaking, really. Because even in my own hearing, it can sound a little silly sometimes, but it's something that I know to be so. Right. I've experienced it so much, I know that to be fact. Now, what would be nice is if because of that, then that obviously would mean that I handle everything the correct way right off the bat. It's not the case. Because in human nature, there's darkness and light. It's got its own battle going on there. And even within your own mind, you're fighting yourself to release what is of the Lord within you. What God put in you as part of the spirit that he placed in you is covered in the fleshly being, which is, as we know, the opposite of that. And so even with ourselves, we're having that battle. But taking control of the mind is certainly a worthwhile task. To controlling I call it controlling your emotions, how you're going to respond. Something happens, you have an emotional response. If you would tune into that, you would find out for just a fraction of a second, you can change how you respond. Later on, it's much longer than that. But even in the early, when you're looking at that, you'll find out I've got just this so quick moment to decide whether to go north or south on my response to this. And when you start getting control of that, then again, that opens up strength for the next moment. You have your provision for the next moment.
Right. In Romans 8, Paul in verse 19, he says, "For the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of God.
Yeah.
For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who hath subjected the same in hope. Because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now." Which is like, okay, so everything is waiting for the sons of God.
Yourself included by the reading of that. Yeah, even your mortal being.
And he continues, because he wants to make that point. He punctuates it or puts an exclamation point on it and says, "And not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption, to wit, the redemption of our body. For we are saved by hope. Yeah. But hope that is seen is not hope. For what man seeth, why doth he yet hope? But we hope for that we see not. Then do we with patience wait for it." Yeah. It's this. It's funny because I'm reminded of this book by our former president, "The Audacity of Hope."
Yeah.
The title of that book. It is that audacity.
It's a good title,
right?
The Audacity of Hope.
The audacity to hope for something that, like, who would ever, like, I'm going to manifest God in the earth. Like, who would have the audacity to hope such a thing that, by me walking out my faith with authenticity, that all of creation will be made better
The audacity of doing right in the middle of wrong.
Right.
You know, just that contrast.
You know, so that listening to that still small voice when everything around you is, you know, pushing in the other direction.
Yeah.
And you know, going, you know what? I'm just going to do what he say do, and
Yeah.
you know, let the chips fall where they may, because I believe that he going to keep his promise, and it's going to turn out all right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing. And in this particular text, when we're looking at Numbers 3, and God is telling us, I have taken these people for myself, and I've made them to be mine, and I've done it to redeem the entire nation.
Yeah.
They are a redemptive sacrifice to me, a living sacrifice that I have made to myself on your behalf, so that you have the capacity to have the relationship with me, which empowers you to be the light.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, just you know, and how he did it is amazing. But yes, it's a phenomenal moment in this particular Torah.
Absolutely.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of In the Middle. Like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast to support the show.